Good afternoon. There was a big USDA report out this morning at 11. We're going to talk about that. It's been a few months since we've done this, and we are both having technical difficulties, so we're keeping our cameras off for this one. Looking at the slides, though, to get started. We'll go through all these one by one, but I guess the big point of this report was
it was kind of surprising to see that, but you look at the numbers and the weather forecasts have really been kind of leading us up to this, and that was the fact that you're seeing the drought situation grab the southern plains. Now it kind of came into a little bit realism when we're seeing the abandonment or the amount of harvested acres drop tremendously for the winter wheat crop in the southern plains. We're still looking at a good crop in the south for the soft red winter wheat, but it's the hard red winter wheat where we saw big abandonment numbers, and that helped to cut production a lot more than anticipated, supporting the wheat market.
Okay, so dig in, kind of finishing up the old crop year, 22-23 ending stocks.
It was. USDA
Corn
came
was
in and lowered exports by 75 million bushels. That came in with jumping our stocks about 50 million bushels above expectations. And although we weren't surprised at seeing the cut in exports because of the 3 cancellations we've been seeing, it is a little surprised that it was that big since we haven't been running that far behind pace for the corn exports. And of course, with the soybeans, the big surprise there came with an increase in imports. Not that we don't have enough soybeans in the U.S., but now we're looking, because of price, importing a few more bushels out of Brazil just because of a little bit cheaper product.
And then moving on to the new crop, we first looked, again, this report was a first look at the new crop numbers, but this year they didn't change much from the.
It didn't. The one thing that we were looking or expecting maybe a little lower yield for corn in this report. Of course, USDA didn't think that. They actually bumped the yield up to the same yield that we were using in the Ag Outlook form that came out in February. And of course, the soybean numbers coming in, both the planted acres and the harvest and the yield coming in the same as what we saw in the Ag Outlook form. Overall, though, both very daunting numbers showing big increases in production, more so for the corn side. When you look at increasing production, 145 above expectations, 180 more than the previous year. And then soybeans, even though we're looking at acres equal to last year, the fact that we saw the big jump in yield made a big difference.
And then the wheat numbers, like I said, that was the main
surprise.
Focus of
when you look at it for
wheat.
All wheat production being down, we still don't quite know where our spring wheat's going to fall because we're just getting that crop planted. But the winter wheat crop dropping by 100 million bushels more than anticipated, that shows that there was a lot more abandonment than anticipated. It only is coming in about 26 million bushels above last year, which, we did increase acres quite a bit. So that's a little bit of a surprise to the market. And you can see that the biggest cut came in the hard red winter wheat or the Southern Plains wheat.
Yeah, we got some more slides to go through that. This I thought was interesting, kind of overlaying the current drought monitor report.
We can definitely see, the problem continues to be in Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and right in the heart of the winter wheat region.
And again, that's giving the state-by-state numbers.
Not really, other than the production drop as far as the states. You look at Kansas, we're looking at production dropping by almost 22%, and that's the largest winter wheat producing state we have. So that's going to be a pretty big hit as far as the wheat crop is concerned.
And again, another good chart here with the acre changes. I've got another one coming up here. If we go to that one,
this one really kind of speaks volumes to why we saw what we saw in the wheat market today. And this is showing where how much is being harvested to what was planted. 67%, which is the lowest in 10 years. This chart goes back 10 years, so we can't see before that. But it's certainly a far cry from the 25% to 30% abandonment we've seen in the last few years. This year we're at over 30%, and there's likely that's going to increase as we go forward.
And again, yield, I guess that surprises me. I think we've been trending downward for the winter
goes to
wheat
show
yield
how
that many
much
years
that
in a row.
the drought has gripped that region and dropped their yields. And now that we're the second year below trend, and we're far below trend this year, so that does speak a little bit of volumes again towards what's going on in the Southern Plains.
And then again, too, this is looking at the percent change from the previous year. And again, lots of red, especially in those drought areas.
Kansas's crop, like we mentioned, 22% below for their winter wheat yield than compared to last year. You're looking at Oklahoma's down 18%, Texas down almost 7%. And that's the big states as far as the winter wheat crop is concerned.
And again, just overall looking again, winter wheat production slightly higher than last year.
And this would be their lowest winter wheat production, even though we're looking at acres increasing. The last 5 years we've seen acres increase, but we're actually going down to the lowest production we've had since again this 10-year chart.
And there's anything to say about the
it kind of tells you where the problem is, and that is in the hard red winter wheat, which is the biggest class. We're seeing good production though in the other two, especially the soft red. I mean, that's where you're looking at as far as the Delta and as far as the Corn Belt, Illinois and that region is where most of the soft red. They've got good conditions. That crop's going to be fairly decent. And so far, the white wheat, which is the Pacific Northwest, is doing okay. It's going to be lower than last year, but it is holding up. It's holding its own for the most part.
Now, moving on to new crop numbers. For new crop ending stocks, again, with
huge increase. I mean, you look at the stocks going to 2.2 billion. That was a lot more. Well, 178 more than we expected. 805 above the current year, this year's crop. And that just is because of the bigger acres and the bigger yield that we're looking at. And I do think this is going to be the biggest production estimate and the biggest ending stocks estimate we see for corn for the year. For soybeans, it's also a very large number, 120 above last year. It's going to be interesting. But I don't think that number could actually swell a little bit more depending on where our plantings go in the northern plains. And wheat, actually, which is odd, turned out to be both lower than expected and lower than the previous year, which makes it a little bit friendly towards the wheat market.
South America, again, now world numbers, we're going back to old crop. Nothing terribly surprising on the Brazil side, but
it was. I mean, especially since we saw, Rosario coming out earlier this week and decreasing production for soybeans again. They left their corn production unchanged, but still their production estimates are coming in a lot less than where USDA was. So it was a little bit of a surprise that we didn't see an adjustment in Argentina's production in this report.
And then looking at, these are old crop world ending stocks, obviously with the Brazil numbers higher.
And that was really where it kind of dictated what happened for the corn and the soybeans. And wheat seen a little bit more of a jump off of some tightening of some numbers as well.
Okay, and these where numbers get kind of crazy. Now we're looking at the new crop 23-24 world production. Pretty again, huge numbers increasing in Brazil.
And they're looking at increasing their acres. There's no question about that. But to be able to get 163 million metric ton production, that's another 8 million above this year. And look at the logistics problems that they're having. Throw on top of that, they're not looking at increasing their corn as much. They're looking at putting most of their new acres into soybeans. And then Argentina, of course, not knowing any better, we have to go back to an average crop there. And that shows a pretty large increase in the production estimate or the ending stocks estimate for soybeans and corn as well. But what's really comes into interesting is just all the countries that are decreasing their wheat production going into 23 with, Australia looking at dropping theirs by 10 million metric ton. Argentina's wheat crop is not going. I mean, that estimate might be a little bit high because Argentina is still very much in a drought, and they're looking at the possibility of losing about 1 million hectares of acres because of how dry it is. So that production estimate will likely see a little bit of a cut. But Russia's production down, of course, Ukraine's production down in wheat. So there is, again, a little bit more friendly story going in the wheat market, not just from the U.S. numbers being cut, but also world numbers.
And then when we put all that together, get the world ending stocks, I've never seen a soybean world ending stock number
I
that
haven't
big
either.
at
And then,
122.5.
we were talking about the 107 being a record. Well, this is 15 million metric ton above what we expected. That really is going to shatter the record for soybean ending stocks. And that really is going to make it kind of daunting moving forward for soybeans. Unless we can get some strong demand, with the biodiesel or with the renewable diesel going in the U.S. Big time, that's going to be a tough number and put a little bit of a black cloud over the soybean market. But wheat, again, even though we're a little bit higher than what we expected, we are seeing it lower from the previous year, and that is friendly.
And then China imports, those are, again, this is for the new crop coming up 23, 24. I'm a little surprised by the 5 million
that
metric
is a
ton increase in
surprise
corn
because we
imports
keep hearing how they're going to be looking at trying to become more self-sustained, self-sufficient. So seeing them looking at importing more corn, that leads a little bit friendliness towards the U.S. and U.S. does showing an increase in corn exports for 2023.
Okay, it's Friday. It's been a long week. We're throwing something in different on this one. Randy wore his Duke and Duke t-shirt today, and ironically, today's report was friendly to the orange juice futures. What movie are we talking about? First person to text that to our main number, the 205-4200, will give you a Martinez jacket or pullover.
Nope.
Anything else
good
to add,
luck
Randy?
to who can answer that question.
And don't cheat and Google it. And again, any questions, you know how to get a hold of us. Here's our contact info. Thank you for joining us.